And then I told him, if you're going to do it, you're going to just spend, oh, God. Hi, everybody. Hey there. Hi there. Ho there. It's me, Bear, the Gen X GM. I got a whole bunch of people with us tonight. Yeah. So we have got joining us tonight on the panel, Zane, GM Cody, Sean from Major's Musings, Len, who is my Lord and Master, as we all know, and I am a fully authorized subsidiary of Lakeside Games, apparently. And, of course, the Dungeon Damsel herself, Bunny, joining us. Everyone, welcome to the panel tonight. How y'all doing?
Hello.
Dear God, Sean, we're not doing that all night, are we?
Oh, yes.
Why does Sean not have a face?
Yeah,
because Sean is too pretty. If Sean put his pretty face on here with Cody and Mai's deep voices and Len's sharp wit, society would collapse as we know it. And now we've got you two here, successful game designers. We're in big trouble.
We definitely already have a problem because of her.
So don't do that. Do that because I'm the problem. I promise you.
The more practical answer is I'm on my computer without a webcam, and this is the avatar for my channel. So
it's a cute avatar.
It's a cute channel. You guys should check it out. Anyway, hi to everybody in the chat. Sorry we had the false alarm for 8 a.m. this morning. That's me. I'm stupid. And I really wish America would just join the rest of the world and go to a 24-hour clock. But since you won't, much like the metric system, we're going to have to keep playing the AM-PM game. And every now and then I make a little mistake, and it happens. So normally we save the shilling and the pimping and the promoting for the end of the show. But we're going to get this one out of the way right away because it's that bloody impressive. There's a link in the description box. There's a tiny URL going across right now. That's a backer kit. That's going to take you to Bunny and Zane's little project going on. And I don't know, blowing up would be the right word. I don't know. You tell me. Guys, tell us about your project.
Loading.
Well, it's kind of fitting because what we're doing tonight is we're talking about D&D alternatives, right? And so we got excited about Shadowdark and got totally into it and started making our own content and realized we should just go ahead and actually make a supplement. I was in the video game industry for 22 years as a producer, so I have lots of experience with games and gaming and that sort of thing. So it just seemed to make a lot of sense. So the Shadowdark supplement is called Unnatural Selection. And we're already at 45K views. 45K dollars. Way more views, and so you should definitely check it out. And what's really been great about it is that entire Shadowdark community, and I'm sure we'll be talking about that as we discuss all of this more. That Shadowdark community has really surprised the heck out of us and done some amazing things, and they're rooting for us just as much as we're rooting for us. So it's been really a great experience.
I gotta say, it's impressive. So before we get into the D&D hacks or clones, as everybody else calls them, I call them hacks because everybody hacks it. And I got the white hack, the black hack, the Len hack, there and hack again. And by this axe, I hack and all those other clever names. What possessed you guys to do this specific supplement? And what is the subject matter of the supplement?
Do you want to? No, I mean, I can answer this partially because he's like kind of more of the mastermind. We were playing a game and we wanted to implement Shadowdark into it. And what happened was that, they didn't have a necromancer. So we kind of invented a necromancer, which is the grave warding class that we've created. And I mean, it looked amazing. We made it look just like the book. We did the setup and the outline and just everything. It looked just like the book. And I did like art and stuff for it. And I mean, that's what happened. That's what started.
Yeah, because I was creating, I've been running a basic fantasy campaign for a while.
I love basic fantasy.
And we were going to switch our basic fantasy over into Shadowdark, but one of our characters was a necromancer, thus the creation of the necromancer class. And then we said, wow, this is really good. It's really fun. It's really, interesting and kind of easy in some ways. So we said, let's see what else we can do. Or at least it came easy to us. And so let's see what else we can do with this. And it just kept growing and growing fairly organically, really.
It's taken off. Like I've seen some stuff explode over the years and Kickstarters and Indiegogos and what have you. This is the first thing I've ever seen that I've paid attention to that's been done through BackerKit directly, and I want to talk about that in a second. But just seeing it explode so quickly was like wow, wow. Like that was an impressive jump. Like well done, guys. I don't know what vein you tapped into. I don't know what dark gods you sacrificed things to, but
the shadow dark gods.
Send me some notes on that, please, because I need to do that in about this time next year when I start launching some stuff. So I'm going to need to get that good mojo. Why did you go with BackerKit over, say, Kickstarter or Indiegogo?
Hey, they convinced us pretty well. We met them up at what was it called? Gen Con. We met them at Gen Con. We just really liked the people.
It's a lot more contact than people at Kickstarter, right? Because you're just kind of doing that to nobody. Nobody's there interacting with you really.
Yeah.
But we've had a hand-holding kind of experience with all of the folks over there, and that's been really great.
That's cool. That's very cool, because I've done a couple of Kickstarters myself, and you're very much in the wind on your own, just kind of flapping in the breeze, hoping you get some success. So Z-Nuts, you tell me, when we go to Bastard Sword, when we do Mighty Superheroes, should we go to BackerKit or should we stick with Kickstarter? You guys tell us in the comments in the chat. Let us know what you want us to do, and we'll make a decision regardless. But it's always nice to hear people's opinions. It's a fun thing. All right. Go back them, guys. Go throw some money at this project. Go give them some love. Bring the community together and support other indie publishers, because that's what it's all about. And it doesn't matter if you don't like Shadow Dark. It's not about that. It's about a community that needs to grow, because we've been seeing in the last year exactly what the powers that be think about us as consumers. So just like this channel, just like this group, just like everything we do, it's about building community. It's about working together, and it's about looking out for each other. So let's keep that ball rolling. Link in the banner, direct link in the show notes. Head on over. Push it up to 50,000 tonight. Come on, guys, you can do it. All right, second thing I'm going to announce. Tonight is the first night we're going to be trying something different, which is for Super Chats. If we can raise $100 in Super Chats, of which Google takes 30%, we will give away two $25 drive-through RPG gift cards to people who chatted here tonight in the chat. So if we can get to that number, we're going to give it away. If not, we'll try again next week and see how it goes. And now, the reason we're all here. Everybody who's on this channel and pays attention to me knows exactly what my feelings on D&D are these days, as a system, as a world, as a thing. I haven't been subtle about it, and I've been open. But I thought it would be fun to get an interesting panel of people on. A couple of game designers here. We got Len, we got Zane and Bunny, we got Sean, who's a streamer, does some D&D stuff, and we got Cody, who is just, Cody's my bestie. I love Cody. I'm going to bring Cody everywhere I go. I'm going to get one of those carrying cases you get for like a Doberman, so I can bring Cody around to like conventions and stuff. It's going to be awesome.
Wow.
Tell Raven she's going to lose you for those days. Anyway, the point is this. There are, and Shadow Dark is a prime example of this, a ton and a half of D&D system clones, or as I call them, hacks. There are a lot. And as the title of the video says, we've got, Len's got two. And as the title of the video says, there are the good, there are the bad, and there are the ugly. So we're going to be discussing that tonight, and we're going to be talking about our personal preferences and things like that. But we would love for you guys in the chat to join in, tell us what yours are, disagree with us, yell at us, call us names, whatever you want to do. It's your business. We're pretty open here about this kind of stuff. So starting us off, the first question is going to be this. In the plethora. Oh my God, the James. Hey James, how you doing, man? Thanks for coming in and thanks for being first. Love you, brother.
I yelled Zane at you.
It's GM James, and he's come through. So thanks, James. Really appreciate that. We are now $90 away from 2 gift certificates. Okay. Of the vast, and I mean vast, proliferation of D&D clone hacks, first question for you. What's the good? What's the one that you love the most? What's the one that you will play every time? And Zane, because of your positioning on the Brady Bunch board, you get to go first.
Okay, cool. Well, I was a player of tabletop RPGs when I was in high school and when I was in college. And then I went off to the video game industry as a producer, and I stopped playing TTRPGs. So I was one of those guys that had the big long break. So I had, 25 years where I didn't play. So then I came back in, and I was introduced to Pathfinder and 5e as I got started back into the hobby. And it was well done. It was very interesting, but I just felt like you couldn't die, and it was we were just superheroes who were invincible. And so I started this not taking it very seriously. I realized that back in the day when I used to play, I was always scared, and now I wasn't scared anymore. So I was kind of bored with it. And, obviously the DM can make that different. And that's an important fact that we should talk about maybe up front, is the fact that it's up to the DM. It's system agnostic. If the DM's good, the game's going to be good. If the DM sucks, the game's going to suck. But at the very least, the system that impressed upon me fear, which is something that I think is inherent or imperative in almost any game. You need urgency, you need fear, you need to care about your characters, you need to care about everything that's going on. If you need all of that, the best way to get it is to have a system where you could die at any moment. So that's really why I like I said, I went to basic fantasy, and here we are in Shadowdark. And I think that does a very nice job of bringing back the nostalgia that I had from the old D&D and giving that emotional impact that I'm really searching for. Yeah, basic fantasy. So I'm gonna say, of course, Shadowdark, but that's kind of obvious. And really, basic fantasy is a quick runner-up because they're both actually very similar. But the problem with basic fantasy to me is that there are a lot of good things that were introduced in 5e and Pathfinder that basic fantasy didn't really take advantage of that Shadowdark did.
All right, that's fair, and certainly Shadowdark's getting a lot of love, so that makes sense. Cody.
Yeah, so I've played and own every version of D&D, and I've always been a GM mostly. I mean, I've played in games, but I've always, I started as a GM and I still am a GM. So when this retro clone, hack clone, whatever you want to call it, came around, I got involved in it right as it came into being, like on the forums at Dragon's Foot and old school Dungeons and Dragons forums. I used to hang around all those forums and, talk about the intricacies of the old school Dungeons and Dragons and all that. So I thought it was a great thing when all these clones came around, because at the time, all this stuff was out of print. And for, it wasn't terribly expensive, but it might be a little harder to get for the layman. So it was really cool to see the stuff, brought back, history preserved, and in a modern format with modern art and modern presentation where people can play these old games or even look at them if they're curious. But one game I got fascinated with at that time period, which was, I guess, what was that, like 2006 when all these clones started coming around?
Mm-hmm.
Was Swords and Wizardry, but specifically the white box version. Because I'm a big fan of D&D white box and the original Dungeons and Dragons system. And so when this came around, I thought this was a really clever and very nice presentation of the white box game, and a really nice slim rulebook too. But also there's a modern version of that just called white box. It's like $5 on Amazon. It's really good deal. Really fun little game. So that's probably my favorite clone.
It's got a couple of cool covers too.
Yeah, there's tons of variants of it.
Yeah. All right, fair enough. So there's one for white box, and for so it's Swords and Wizardry, or the first white box edition. Is that what we're talking about?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
All right, there you go, Dale. Someone said Sword and Wizardry. You happy now, sir? Sean, surprised by not saying Osric.
Well, it won't be Osric, I'm afraid. But okay, so first my overly elaborate backstory. As all we must know where the players are. Yes, exactly. I cut my teeth in the mid '80s on Beckman. That was my starter set, and didn't play it right, of course, because I was 13 and stupid. And then moved on to other games, tried Palladium systems, AD&D, all of that. But I've been playing role-playing games consistently for about 37 years. So ultimately, I settled on AD&D. I know it's not a clone. AD&D First Ed is my system of choice. But early last year, I got introduced to Old School Essentials, and I had felt that I don't need to go back to basic D&D. I've got the system I like, and then playing Old School Essentials was like a breath of fresh air. It was like, holy crap, this is immensely fun. I haven't had this much fun playing in a game in ages. So naturally, I just doubled down, went all in, went on the Kickstarter and all that. So my choice, if it was any surprise, is of course Old School Essentials. I think basic more than the advanced. I won't get too far into my feelings on the advanced, but the great thing about Old School Essentials, yeah, there you go, basic fantasy, is how Gavin Norman didn't try to reinvent the wheel. It wasn't a retro clone that was basically his house rules for his own game. It was, I want to get this 99.9% accurate to the source, just with a different presentation. And that actually is very endearing. It's like, okay, so I'm honoring what came before, just shaking up the presentation a little. And it really works. I love having, like, the OSE book is amazing to have at the table because it's so efficiently laid out. If you have to look something up, you're there in seconds.
Yeah. Two-page design philosophy is really good.
It's brilliant. It's absolutely brilliant. And he even extended that to his carcass crawler. He has a 2-page dungeon. It's like, oh, this is also quite brilliant. So yeah, so Old School Essentials sort of takes that spot of top retro clone. I still prefer my AD&D, official AD&D first edition, but OSE is like right up there, close second.
Yeah. Okay, so OSE. So we're hearing some good pedigrees so far. I like this. All right, everybody, crack open a beer, light a cigarette, go make a sandwich because Len's going to talk now. Len?
I was born in a log cabin in 1837, built by Gary Gygax and Arneson. It was made entirely of white boxes, glued together by paper chits because we didn't have dice back then. No. So I design games inspired by at least some of my games, classic D&D. So I'd be a moron if I didn't design the kind of games I like to play. That doesn't mean they're the best. That means they are the games that have the rules that tickle my particular pickle. So with that out of the way, the fact of the matter is that the games that kind of inspire me, Black Hack blew me away with its very stripped down take on classic D&D rules. I thought it needed to have a few more things layered in to turn it into, to change it from a one-shot thing to a game that you could actually keep the simplicity of it and the joy of playing it while allow for expansion and character development over a long campaign. So to the extent that Black Hack or Black Hack Hacks would qualify to answer this question, I would say Black Hack or the hacks that I've made of it. And if they don't, because it's one step too far, then I've got to join on Sean's boat and say OSE, Old School Essentials. Not because it added anything new, but because Gavin really reminded me or taught me that the presentation of the material is as important as the material itself. Because it is head and shoulders above everything else, not because there's anything new in it, but just because of how it's put together and how it's put together as a tool first and a book second.
Well, let's build on that. I mean, because it is an important thing to touch on. One of the things I appreciate about OSE and Gavin's style is the economy of words he uses. He doesn't spend a lot of time doing Gygaxian purple prose. He doesn't fluff it up a lot. And he's the one who's taught me for my game design, I don't need to write like Zeb Cook and Jeff Grubb in the 80s, even though they're great guys. And they gave us great legacies to build off of. We can actually write something a little more utilitarian now, a little more direct and to the point to get the people up to speed on what they need to know about the game. Because I'm sorry, your beloved first edition, Sean, is a little bit of a chore to read sometimes. I'm just
but it's so fun to read.
Yeah, oh no, it has its own charm. But as a utilitarian device, it can be a bit daunting. Okay, so Black Hacks, OSE, and your own stuff. Len, I'm not surprised. This is what I expected, sir. All right, and bring us home, Bunny Below. What is your, if you agree with Zane, I'll understand, but what is your preferred? Sorry?
I agree with Zane. First of all, I started off in Pathfinder first edition, worked my way down to 3.5, Then I worked down further to AD&D, and then I hit basic fantasy, and I kind of fell in love with the simplicity. The simplicity, yes. I fell in love with the simplicity that that basic fantasy brought to the the genre. Like I mean, I'm pretty sure that that's more like what 1E was supposed to be. Like it's supposed to be deadly, it's supposed to be simple, and you're just supposed to be able to jump right into the action and get right to it. And Shadowdark did a lot of good things by bringing some of like the best parts of 5e, because don't hate me, but I 5e's kind of
we've all played it.
It's too superhero-y in my opinion. However, Shadowdark gets some elements of 5e into like the 1e kind of system, like the unlimited spells, like how the cantrips work, and you can just keep like firing off spells until you fail miserably and then kill everybody. But still, I think that's a pretty good system. That's the only thing I didn't like about basic fantasy is like as a wizard you get one spell and then that's it.
Thank you, Daniel, by the way. Okay, that's fair. No, that's all fair, and that's good stuff. Okay, well, I'll spare you all my origin story. Thank you very much. Yeah, obviously, I think the world of old school essentials, and those who know me won't be surprised by this.
I don't think the Star Trek role-playing game counts as...
Hey, it's pretty cool.
Fuck up. And...
Oh, speaking of that, Star Trek role-playing game is really good. Oh, he likes
Pathfinder First Edition Beginner Box remains, to me, the best non-D&D edition of D&D. Why? Simplistic. 5 levels. Streamlined. The books are laid out perfectly for a newbie, or for someone who's just coming into the hobby and wants to understand the thing, or for us old grognards who've forgotten certain things in all the years of our ring rust and crustiness that we've built up. It's fun to remind us about how to do certain things sometimes. If you go to, there's a Edowar's blog, he has taken a ton of the Pathfinder material and converted it. So you can literally run any character class that exists in Pathfinder, any feat that was worth transferring over, any spell, but without all the bibs and bobs and boobles and bing blangs of Pathfinder getting in the way. That thing that, if you're not into the crunch, stay away from Pathfinder. But if you like that basic D20 engine, Pathfinder Beginner Box is definitely a must-have. Now, someone just brought something up, and I have to remember where I put the book. Here it is. This is an honorable mention for me. Myth and Magic sadly has a tremendously sad history in the Kickstart, which we've gone over here before. And, to sum it up for those who don't know, funded, barely shipped, funded a GM's guide, never shipped, ran off with all the money after lying to the backers for years and years and years. But it doesn't change the fact that Myth and Magic has probably the best modernization of AD&D 2E that you will ever see out there. It is a fantastically good game.
It's really cool.
I highly recommend picking it up if you can. Okay. That was the good. And we all talked about some real good there. Let's talk about the bad. What's that just the stuff that makes you just go, oof. Oh, Len's rolling up for it. What are the hacks that when you see them, you just kind of shuddered? You were like, oh God, what is this nonsense? And again, we'll start with Zane.
I don't have any. And again, I maybe it's because I haven't played enough of them, but I will call back to what I said earlier. If the DM's good, then any system will work.
I will introduce you to a game called Aftermath someday, and we'll see if we'll still feel that way after you're done reading it.
Okay. Yeah. So yeah,
don't be mean.
I don't have enough of a sample size in order to do that. I've focused on the 4 or 5. I played some DCC, just a couple of others beyond what we've already talked about, and that's been about it. And I think we can credit that 25-year gap as the reason why.
All right, fair enough. Listen, that's a valid place to be, and certainly, no one's going to be like, "Well, you have no pedigree, sir." No, it's fine. There are merits to the idea that a good GM can make a bad game sing if they know what they're doing. There are, though, some games out there, Cinnabar, where you might have to house rule the living crap out of it to get to where you need to go, but that's life. Okay, Cody, what's a bad?
Okay, I'm kind of with Zane. I've looked at most of the D&D hacks, even though I'm not up on like the ones that are coming out now. I just kind of lost interest. And I don't think any of them are terrible per se, but one that left me wanting, and I don't think it's bad, is Lamentations of the Flame Princess.
Ooh.
Now, I love the style of this game. I love what it's trying to present. I love the art. I love the ideas, but really it's just BX straight up. It's just a BX clone. There's nothing in here really interesting or different about it. So for that, I think it's a bad. But I will say the bonus of this game is the supplements and adventures and all that stuff is fucking awesome. That stuff's really good. But as far as like the core rules, left me wanting.
Fair enough. That's fair. That's fair. I won't be pulling it off the shelf because I don't have it. So that's you found my weak spot. Whatever. All right, fair enough. Sean,
I don't have any hard hatreds, but I'm going to echo with Cody. I don't like Lamentations. My nephew to be, my niece's fiance, was running ostensibly OSE, but he was filtering in all sorts of elements of Lamentations, and every time he told me, "Oh, this is from Lamentations," it's like I should have known. That's just awful.
Yeah.
You say it's a BX clone, but there's a lot different. At least the version he was introducing, that just was like, yeah, this doesn't feel like OSE to me. So
there's a few differences. I mean, they're like real tiny things, and like some of the spells are different, whatever. But I like
to use a spell slot to turn undead, things like that. That really gimps them. Yeah.
But I thought, if you're going to do that kind of stuff, just go more for the horror, grim, dark atmosphere. Do a little bit more with it. Add in some fear rules or some sanity rules or, whatever. It just felt way too BX D&D for what it was. But again, I love
more spice.
I love the yeah, and I love the supplements. I have tons of their adventures and like the Alice in Wonderland thing was cool and whatever, so, but yeah, overall the core rules were just kind of meh. I mean, I could just house rule D&D and get a better grim dark fantasy or play Shadow Dark or whatever, right?
Okay, nothing wrong with that. Fair enough. Okay, we're gonna skip Len and we're just gonna let Bunny say what she's gonna say, and then we'll come back to Len and let Len talk for an hour. So go ahead, Bunny. What do you got?
I also honestly haven't played enough to basically hate anything, but while I love Cyberpunk 2020, I also don't like Cyberpunk 2020. I think it's too complicated in a lot of aspects. I think if I had to pick something that I thought was bad, it's Cyberpunk 2020.
2020 or Red?
Man, I've played both, and both of them were hard for me to get into. Yes.
But we love our Cyberpunk.
But I love them, right? Okay, so we have a friend who is actually running a Cyberpunk Shadow Dark adaptation, and it's amazing. I'm telling you, I love it and I hate it. Like,
nothing wrong with that, and I completely understand why. Trust me, I love the original 2013 box set Cyberpunk. 2020, I got it. I played the shit out of it in the 90s, but I was like, do we really need fucking hit points, guys? Do we really need all this extra shit you've added in? And then by the time I got to Red, I'm just like, okay, between these three, if we can distill it down, there's an amazing Cyberpunk game waiting to be made. But sadly,
yeah, I think it was 2020. I'm pretty sure it was 2020 that I was playing. It's just too complicated, too hard to start into. I finally understood it eventually, but it took a long time.
Fair enough. Okay, Labyrinth Lord for me. Sorry, I don't like it. It was too simplistic. It was the game I came back to D&D on in 2009 when I started my first West campaign. And yeah, I have a bunch of them on the shelf too, Cody, but Labyrinth Lord never clicked for me. And I very quickly just went on to Castles and Crusades and other things because it just never hit the button for me. It never hit the switch. It missed the point. It missed the mark that Gavin found with OSE as far as I'm concerned. That's just the way it is. I know, heresy, burn him. Okay. Everyone, we can just turn off our cameras and go like, bake or something, because now Len's gonna go.
Wow, after this setup, I don't know how to tell you this, but the answer is none. I mean,
I knew that was going to be your answer. I knew that was going to be your answer because you're always Mr. Everything's wonderful. Go ahead.
Yeah, not to be Pollyanna, but I'm never met a role playing game I didn't like. So there's none that I have an issue with. Some are better put together better than others, obviously, but the fact of the matter is, I don't really have an issue with any of them. I will say that many of them intentionally carry over what I think are flaws of the original design by choice, whether because people either like those design choices, either because they rationally like them or because there's a nostalgia factor. And I will never be convinced that it's not at a minimum a combination of both. Okay. But yeah, any system that anyone's done, it's someone putting time and care and love into this, and I like it.
Len, this is why I'm a wholly owned subsidiary of Lakeside Games, because of that positive vibe that you bring to everything, the love that you sprinkle like spice on a steak. It's just fantastic. I also call bullshit because you've read Cinnabar.
There is enthusiasm.
Yes.
There is enthusiasm, and enthusiasm counts for something. It counts for a lot, in fact. Right, it might not be the first thing I'm going to grab and throw onto the table per se, but
Len also likes Soviet art. What am I missing here? What's going on in Turkey? What's this about? Comrade Len, what is he talking about?
Look, I don't know. I got too many windows in my house, and there's a plane trip for me in the future, so I'm not saying anything.
All right, quick update before we go on to the next level of questioning. We are at $50 on the Super Chats, guys. We're halfway there. This is awesome. Let's go all the way and get two people a $25 drive-through gift card tonight. Okay.
So All Ones has a question with his Super Chat. What makes our system and setting different from standard D&D?
What makes their system and setting different? Who's there?
That's I guess us, because we all chose a system, right?
Yeah. But I don't think any of us chose anything that had a setting attached to it, did we?
I assume we're talking about the Backer Kit project.
Yeah, unless you're talking about the Backer Kit project, that would be for them to answer. So why don't we do that for a quick second, guys? Answer that question, please.
So now that I'm going to think about it in a different context, our Backer Kit, what was the question again?
What makes your system and or setting different from standard D&D? So what are you bringing to the table with this as an expansion for Shadowdark?
Well, it's kind of interesting because we're actually bringing to Shadowdark some things from D&D. So we have like tieflings, and we have dragonborn, and we have some of the classes and other ancestries that are similar. So and we also kind of did a thing where we're saying it's the untamed and the underworld. So we've got more nature aspects, lots more animals, lots more classes that are the ancestries and the classes that are related to nature. And then we have the underworld. So we have like a plague doctor and the necromancer and that sort of thing. So it's kind of a combination of things that we're bringing, because they were, I would say the original Shadowdark covers the main base of going through a dungeon. This brings going outside the dungeon, and it brings going into the underbelly of society.
So it's a little bit like a expert for Shadowdark if Shadowdark was basic.
Yeah.
Okay, I like that. That's a damn good answer. Well done. I like that. Well done.
Verified indeed, yes.
Yes, indeed. Yes, indeed. Now, do you have any grade poem to go with your game? So that brings us to the question that I'm sure no one will have an answer for, and everyone will just say, there's no such thing. All games are great, just like Len did, but now we talk about the ugly. And let me preface that with the following. That game you wanted to love.
Still not
you saw it and you went, yeah, baby, this is, and then you read it and you went, I don't know, baby. And then you ran it, you were like, oh God, no, it's not whatever. No. And your heart broke. It was your fantasy heartbreaker. We'll call that the ugly because it made you cry ugly. All right, let's go in reverse. Bunny.
I actually don't have an answer.
You don't have an answer?
No.
Okay. There's never been a game that you were so excited about playing and then you played it and just went, no. Just
the only thing I think of is that one weird one that was run with that. See, I can't even think of the name of it. So,
are you thinking about Call of Cthulhu?
No.
The weird Harry Potter 5e thing that was being played at.
That's a good example.
At Gen Con. That got a little. Yeah, no, that's not a system, so I don't really have anything.
Okay, so someone's hack with Harry Potter for 5e was a big letdown.
Yes, it started off really exciting, and then it was like nostalgia, but the guy kind of.
Well, she loves her Harry Potter, so if it's not delivered exactly right, then it's not good enough.
He was kind of a meh DM. If anything, I was the person who made the whole game lively, but Zane was falling asleep at the table.
So Zane, delivered properly means owls flew in and dropped off your character sheets and things like that.
Yeah, that would have probably been okay. Then.
I don't care how shitty a GM he was, man. Right. There were owls.
Yeah.
Yeah, fair. All right, Len, you can't give me this. Everything's great and I've loved everything. There's got to be a fantasy heartbreaker somewhere in your past.
Little known game, you probably haven't heard of it. It's called Shadow fucking Run. Are you kidding me? Shadowrun. Shadowrun. I don't care what it is.
I agree with that.
Shadowrun. I mean, for me, it was more than once, but recently, as in a couple of years, I think I lost a friendship over this game recently. It's at that level. I mean, a couple of years ago, I'm like, you know what? I'm gonna run a Shadowrun game. And so I got second edition, and I have second edition. I looked through it, and I went through and did like an outline of the rules. So and I'm like, okay, there's a gap here. We need to figure out how people cover this. And I went online. Okay, this is how people cover this, and there's a gap here. And I'm like, okay, I got it. And then we sat down, and the minute anyone did anything that was not precisely in line with the expectations, I'm like, okay, hang on, there's here. And it's fun to listen to actual plays of people who play Shadowrun who know what they're doing. It's a hoot and a half. But man, running it at the end of the day, it does not deliver the level of enjoyment that would be required for me to put in the effort that was required to play this game properly. Yeah. So God bless it, Shadowrun.
Okay. You all know what I think of Shadowrun, so you won't hear me trying to defend it. Sean.
Oh, that would have to be third ed D&D. I hated it. Hated it. I can't be more eloquent than I just hated it. It was everything wrong. And it could possibly be the DM was not great. He and his group would spend half an hour searching through books to determine whether one of the characters might have a +1. And this is all before they would roll the strike. It's like, you're already at +20. Just roll the die and see if the +1 is even necessary. There's no, we got to know. But there's just too many things, too many synergies, too many skills, too many points, too many paths you had to take. It was just like, one player showed me a 20-page character sheet, and I'm like, why is it 20 pages? I couldn't do it. Yeah. That's all I have to say about that.
No, and I don't. I'm there with you. 3E really, really, really kind of was like, nope, no thanks. When I had players getting into skill synergies and saying how this gives me advantage, I was like, oh god, I don't need to know the game that deeply. I just want to play D&D, man. Come on.
I know you got some 3E boosters in your crowd, and you do you, but I was going to see if they've unsubscribed from me right now. Oh, look, I lost 10.
Or me by comparison, but then again, I don't give a fuck, so unsubscribe to your heart's content. Okay, fair enough. Code Day.
Yeah, so just to touch on what some of these other fellows were saying, and ladies, 3rd edition.
Len's a lady.
Yeah, I was speaking of Len. 3rd edition. So I don't like running 3rd edition, but I played a lot of 3rd edition back in the day, in the short few years when I wasn't a full-time GM. We had a GM in high school and he ran 3rd edition a lot. That was our go-to game. And I came out at AD&D second edition, so it was a big change for me, but that's what those guys were playing. So that's what I played. And I grew to like the system playing it, but running the game, it's a horror show. I would not run that game, and God bless that guy for running it. He was a really good GM, and he did a really good job with all that. So I don't think it's a horrible game to play, but it's a horrible game to run. And it had some good ideas that were, brought to the table. But overall, I'm not a huge third edition fan. Shadowrun. I love Shadowrun as a setting. It's one of my favorite RPG settings of all time. Mm-hmm. But I feel the same way as Linda. I've tried to run Shadowrun since I was a kid, and it is just, it's horrible. The rules are horrible, and they never can seem to get it right. If you're listening, if you work at Catalyst Games, it's really not that hard. I'll help you. Me and Lynn will sit down and we'll help you write a new version of Shadowrun, because you see, I don't understand why you can't write a good Shadowrun. It's such a good setting. Please give me a good game.
Well, right. Brian knows somebody who
I don't know if Cody is joking, but I would absolutely do that. Thank you, Catalyst people.
Oh my God. What a whore. Oh, I love it. All right. Fair enough.
But as far as like my game that I would pick, recently, it's been Dungeon Crawl Classics and Mutant Crawl Classics.
Okay.
Big letdown. I want to love that game. Yeah, I want to love that game so much. I really do. I've tried over and over again, both of them. I just can't give it the program. I don't like the silly dice. I think it's way too gimmicky and dumb and not needed. Mm-hmm. I don't like all the spell charts. What you would think I would like that, liking Rollmaster and stuff. I don't know. It's just... Yeah, you think I love all that, like Rollmaster, but for some reason that mesh of BX D&D and that stuff just doesn't work for me. So I've tried. I'll probably try again, but I just can't give it the program with Dungeon Crawl Classics.
All right. Before we go any further, Max says 2E Shadowrun system is great. Fight me. So next Wednesday night here, we're going to have Cody and Len versus Max and Brian. It's going to be a Shadowrun Battle Royale.
Fair. Wear your referee's jersey.
I will. I don't have one, but I'll get a white T-shirt and a black marker and go to town. Okay. Cody, you know what my favorite version of Shadowrun is? Right.
Oh, you mean the show?
The Netflix show. That was Shadowrun the movie, and it was much better than anything I've ever seen from Shadowrun. I do not like Shadowrun at all, not even as a setting. So I'm happy to watch you guys fight over that one. All right, Zane, what's your heartbreaker, buddy?
Okay, yeah, thank you for saying Rollmaster, because I had forgotten all about that. So when I was a kid, that's of course when that came out, and I loved I just going through that book and seeing all those charts of all the crazy random stuff that can happen. I was like, wow, this seems like this would be so cool and so creative and then but playing it is just a morass of looking up tables and sitting around waiting for someone to figure out what page is the thing on that you need. So there would be my disappointment, because it just seemed like it was going to be so cool, but it didn't execute.
Yeah. Yeah, brother. I'm with you.
Do you have what's your next question? I want to interrupt what's your next question going to be?
Oh, our next question is going to be open forum. We're going to start talking about comments from the group, and we're going to say whatever the hell we want to talk about next.
Okay. So I would like to propose the question, because we're in the category of what's the best and what's the worst RPG. I kind of want to know, what do you actually want out of a D&D or any kind of role-playing experience? Because there's so many aspects to these games. That's what's kind of amazing about them. Do you love the combat? Is that what you live for? Do you love the actual role-playing? Do you love getting into a character? Do you love epic storylines? There's so many things. And so that's really going to dictate what kind of game works for you. Sure. Because a lot of them are very geared toward one of those things, or maybe a couple of those things, but maybe not all of those things. And so that could be an interesting topic.
Gee, I wonder why that was a comment I just saw.
Do you two know each other? Is there a fix here or something?
Oh my God, she teleported. Okay, I'm going to actually answer that question. I'm gonna answer it well, because my entire YouTube experience started as my quest to find the best D&D game, the one that hit all the buttons for me, and then eventually I learned that did not exist. I love good combat. I love great role playing. I love epic storytelling. I love choice in character creation. I like customization ability for players. I like mechanics that actually can play fast and fun and don't bog down in minutia and just sort of get you into that place where you're just looking up things on charts all the time and doing that sort of beast. That is what I want. And as a result of that, I learned that D&D was never going to be that beast for me. Why? So we've got 50 years of innovation. That's the new catchphrase everyone's throwing around in the community now. 50 years of innovation, and every bloody version I see is someone's hack of their favorite edition of D&D with their house rules. But 99.9% of them, D20 resolution, class, level, hit points. There was a little game called True 20 from Green Ronin, written by Steve Kenson, Mr. Mutants and Masterminds and Blue Rose and all that other fun stuff.
And Icons,
thank you. And he took D20. Yes, there were still classes. Yes, there were still levels. Yes, there were still D20. But he was able to bring in new ideas as well. Damage reducing armor, wound tracking, things like that. And that game played elegantly. And it would be a minor effort for a designer to take the next step to remove classes and levels and create advancements in talent trees and get the same effect, the same result, and everything would be great without having to write in asinine multi-classing rules where people use the most stupidest expression possible. I'm going to take a dip in fighter. Pool, man. It's not a swimming pool. It's not a pond. Or my personal favorite, because this is the argument that I'll always have, I'm going to take a level of barbarian. How the fuck is the wizard suddenly going to become a barbarian? Like, what, you're going to go, like, buy for a year, you're out of the campaign for a year, as you go live with that tribe and go native, because you're sure as shit not doing it in town before the next adventure. And that's the thing I don't like. It can be done. But the problem is, you're going to run into what I've always said is the biggest issue. People don't want that from D&D. And there's other games out there that are already giving them that aren't the D&D engine. So they can still play it. They can scratch that itch and get all that. Me, I'm a spoiled little boy who wants his D&D that does those things. And sadly, I don't get that. So that would be my answer to your question, sir. I hope it wasn't too meandering and answered it to some degree. Shall we see what Cody thinks? Let's see what Cody thinks.
Yeah, so I don't think it's necessarily tied to the game system. You can again, Zane was talking about, if you have a good GM, you can make the game good or bad, and I think the same rings true with the style of the game you're presenting, right? I mean, you can run an old school sandbox game with 5th edition. I wouldn't recommend it, but you can do it, right? Now, what was the other part of the question?
What is it you want from a D&D game?
Oh, what do I want from a D&D game? I already got what I want from a D&D game. And it just, so I play old school D&D if I'm going to play D&D, and I tweak it to whatever suits me. And, I'll pick an edition for that campaign based on whatever flavor I want.
I'm going to interrupt you.
Interjection.
I want to interrupt because it's about, like, what are the elements that you're really trying to get? I don't care about the system or any of that. Right? Like, what are you trying to accomplish?
I got you. So the elements I like for if I'm playing D&D, which I play a lot of role-playing games. I play a lot of games. If I'm playing D&D, I want simple, old school D&D. So I like the simplicity of it and the ability to tweak it and change it the way I want to, if I want to. Sometimes I'll just stick to rules as written, right? But that's really what I'm looking for. I like the simplicity of it. And the reason I like that is the reason most of us old school players like that is so you can not only house rule it easy or tweak it to your liking, but it's you're not beholden to the rules, right? You're not beholden to a bunch of skills and feats and powers and such like that. You you have your, character class, you have your race, and you're off to the freaking races, right? You roll up some abilities, buy a sword, and you're good to go. And from there, it's all in your imagination, and you can do as you will. So that's what I like about D&D specifically.
Okay, all right, Sean.
Yeah.
Jesus, that was a noise.
No, it's. I'm just trying to think of how to articulate it. You know what I mean? It's a tricky one. No, I like. I mean, I play old school as well. One thing I look for are, I guess, meaningful choices. And if we compare fifth ed, you just have a smorgasbord. You have your buffet of I want to pick this, I want to pick that. You can do this. Whereas in old school, you got to commit to a choice. It's like if you take a halfling fighter, you're capped at level 4, and that's a choice. So there's a reason to take that. There's the you get the bonuses of being a halfling, but you got to take the drawback. So your choice will have consequences. I like the right mix of I hate using the term realism, but verisimilitude, a grounding. Methods of resolving things that I'm not necessarily going to, be able to account for, things in the world, the crazy stuff that players come up with, but also, as Cody said, a simple system that has a flow that you can run. And that's why I'm also familiar with D&D too, so that helps. But if I were learning a new system, I would want those elements. It needs to be easily grasped, easily taught, but also have those other elements that I need, the conflict resolution, the parameters and restrictions that make player choices meaningful. Does any of that rambling nonsense make any sense to you guys?
Oh yeah,
just a quick high five to my fellow Canuck on the rambling.
Yeah, this is why I script my videos and I don't go live and just ramble.
No, but it's good. I like what you said there, and I agree. Like everybody so far has said reasonable things, myself potentially not included, but overall it's like, yeah, I get what you're going for. I understand it. Is it answering your question, Zane? That was what I would ask you.
Yeah, I think so. And I think that I want to hear more, and we'll go into a little bit more. So Len,
well, you're about to hear more because it's Len's turn.
I love Dale's response, the ability to apply the sword answer to the orc problem. I think for me personally, the answer depends entirely on the game, because I actually look for different things for different games. I mean, I look for something different when I'm sitting down to play a game of checkers and when I'm sitting down to get beaten in a game of chess. And that's different than if I'm playing a game of cards. And I treat RPGs the same way. If I'm playing a PBTA game, I'm expecting that the core gameplay is going to be really the make-believe, the literally playing the character and the interactions that character has with other characters. And I'm going to look for the rules to sort of support that within the framework of the particular genre that this game takes place in. If it's a Spanish soap opera we're doing, then things are going to work a certain way. And if it's Monster of the Week, things are going to work differently. But that's kind of what I'm looking at. If it's a D&D type game, a game where you have this sort of gradual attrition, I'm going to be expecting those mechanics that's give me an opportunity to plan for the future and have the DM kind of mess with my plans as we go. And if it's a superhero game, I'm expecting something different. So it's a tough... with a nod to I think what Bear wrote, I don't want to go on for an hour. But the fact of the matter is that depending on the game, I will be looking for different things because what I'm looking to get out of that particular play experience is different. Okay, so the only thing I can say is,
hang on.
Yeah.
Game or genre?
No, game. I mean,
okay. All right.
Even game, because you can have two different games in the same genre. You can have a very emo game about soldiers heading back from a war, and
when will you be writing that one, Len?
No, that's not that. That's a Jim Pinto game.
Coming soon from Lakeside Games, The Long Road Home.
Again, Jim Pinto did it. I don't remember what it's called now, and it's excellent. It's a Jimless game.
So what I'm looking for is, depending on what I'm looking for from that particular play experience, I'm just looking for a rule set that supports that. Okay. And as Sean mentioned, that does so within the two things, within the verisimilitude of the genre, and this is sort of a bit of a quibble here, the specific rules need to make me, the player, feel as close to what the character feels. Mm-hmm. And the best way to explain what I'm talking about here is with a tiny example. If you have a game rule that says you can add a number to your roll, but you have to decide before you roll, and you have a limited pool of points. So you decide if you can add to the number before you roll, and then you use those points, right? It's a very, very simple mechanic. That mechanic does not work if you're supposed to be a hyper-competent, hyper-confident, super secret agent. Why? Because the player is thinking, do I spend the points here or not? Every time they decide to spend the points. That's not what that character's feeling. So the game mechanic makes the player feel something that is the antithesis of what the character's feeling. The mechanic might work, the system might work, but within the context of that genre, that is not the mechanic for that genre. And I think very, very, very hard about that. And when I'm looking at systems and when I'm writing systems. So as long as it doesn't fail in that regard, you're good to go.
Well, you've hit a point, which is finally you've put a point that allows me to actually put to words my dissatisfaction with Savage Worlds. I don't play two-fisted pulp action, and I don't play a lot of Old West. If I'm going to do Old West, I want to go original Deadlands because we tried the Savage Worlds Deadlands. But the way Deadlands works, and specifically the trappings and words that are chosen for things like abilities and what have you in the game, constantly are two-fisted pulp or Old West. So if I'm playing fantasy and now I got to worry about my grit, it's like, it drags me out every time. It just shocks me out of that feeling. I don't feel like I can immerse myself into it because the game, as you say, is forcing me to step back and look at it from a different point of view, which is why I will always say the Marvel Superheroes game from TSR may be one of the most perfect immersion level games in the superhero world of games. And I say that knowing you've written Prowlers and Paragons, sir. It is just, they got it right. They got it right out of the gate. They got it right the first time. And it just became something that worked and always made you feel like a superhero when you were playing it. And that really mattered.
Why, despite the flaws, people still play it now and love the hell out of it now. And it has its flaws. And yet the verisimilitude was so excellent that people still carry it. You could see it in Steve Kenson's icons design. Absolutely. I think Kenson has said it's a love letter to
absolutely. No, but you see it in every post superhero game and New Millennium superhero game. There'll be something in their design that will refer to that game because they all sort of came up on it and they all played it, which is ironic because in the 80s when we were playing it, everybody else was playing Champions and thought we were kiddie table because we weren't playing Champions. You know what I mean? It's like, well, I'm sorry, I didn't feel like making a 900-point fucking abomination. I wanted to play a superhero. All right, Bunny, can you answer Zane's question?
Well, I think like Len and Sean kind of answered the question the way I would have. I think immersion is the most important thing because you want that emotion when you're becoming a character. You want to, like, you play role-playing games to step out of reality. So, doing all this math and all this, like, breaking immersion stuff, like the point system and all that stuff, it just kind of takes away from what the core of it really is. And it's becoming somebody else, essentially. Like, I think that's very important. That's all I really have to say.
You should check out her video because just recently she released a video about using a voice. And what a big difference that makes at a brain level, at an emotional level, and how much it colors your experience and makes you think that you are that character. That's really an amazing aspect.
I was going to say I agree. Do voices 100%. I keep hearing advice about don't do voice. That'll break. I'm like, that's the stupidest of advice. Do the voices. Be silly. Be fun.
Right? Feel free at the table. literally, you can't do a German accent, but the characters from Germany do the most outrageously
bad. Yes,
think of and have fun with it.
Right. I commented on Bunny's video, the one you're talking about. I said, your bad accent in our world is pitch perfect in the game world.
Oh yeah,
right.
Because there's no set accents. I mean, everything is made up essentially. Like you acting whatever you want it to be, really.
So you should have heard me attempting Australian. It was truly bad.
You should hear him attempting Canadian. It's even worse. So one of the things I've said over the years is I've run people from veterans to nooblers. Like I've had all types of people at my table, and I'm always fine with people who are the I go ask the bartender this, that, and the other thing, as opposed to going, Mr. Bartender, la 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 la. And I've always been fine with that because I've watched them. And the longer they play, and as the other role players around them are finding character voices and bringing those characters to life, eventually Mr. I go ask the bartender one day just asks the bartender and finds the character. Even if the character has his voice, it doesn't matter. Mm-hmm. This is meant to be fun. Mm-hmm. This is meant to be a good time. This is meant to be a shared experience. Like Dale says, getting together with my friends and killing orcs. Well, there you go. If that's what you're doing, have a good time at it. And anyone, and I swear to God, anyone who sits at that table and judges someone else's shitty, obnoxious Australian accent or bad role-playing choices of their characters' motivations, shut up. You are not the gatekeeper of what is good and what is bad. You are only the gatekeeper of yourself. Let other people play. Let other people do what they want. And surprisingly, the longer they play, the more comfortable they'll become. The more comfortable they become, the better and more immersive they will be in the game.
Watch those accents improve too. It's amazing how the more you use them, the better they get.
Or dig down deeper and become more outrageous. Like it doesn't matter. That's what's fun about the goddamn game. I had a buddy of mine played a bard who was from like a Novgorod type place, and his Russian accent was debatable. But the lines that he pulled at the table, we were quoting them for weeks because it was just so much fun. It was so exciting, and it really brought his character to life for us that by the time we were done, we're like, well, everybody from that city sounds like that, and that's just the way it is.
That's cool.
Well, I think you said something amazing there is that people were quoting what he said. And that's when you've hit gold. Either that or everybody's telling the story of what happened. That's what we really want. And as a DM, I can put a whole bunch of effort into making this elaborate, giant, epic story. But when the characters make a deal with a dragon on the fly, and now the rest of the adventure is them trying to satisfy the deal with the dragon and not be killed by it, it changes everything. So, being able to give players the ability to be something that they're not, like Bunny was saying, fantastic. And also adjusting to the story so that the players are creating the story rather than Dungeon Master is creating a story that the players are trying to figure out. There's, you got to have a little bit of that, but you certainly can allow them to guide the story, and then they're going to want to play every single week. Nobody's going to get sick of that game. And then I go all the way to saying, well, what are we doing right now in life? We are playing a game, and we're playing a character that is Cody and Len and Sean and Bunny and Bear and Zane. And we are essentially playing a game right now. And if we bring some of that into the way that we interact with each other and the world, then all of a sudden we're just going to have fun all the time. Someone's going to say, how's your day? I'm going to say, it's fantastic. I've been playing a game all day. They're like, what? No, I've been playing a game that I'm the main character.
Yeah. It's so true. It's so true. Whenever I work in a corporate environment, I'm literally role playing all day long. Because if I say what I want, and eventually I do get there and I usually get fired for it. But the point is that until the point where I get fired, I find myself going, okay, so today I'm playing the role of the straight-laced corporate drone. Let's see how this works out for me. And I usually blow my willpower saves and start giving people my opinions instead. But you're right. And that's what it is. This is the thing. So we are in the second hour. The second hour is where we're pretty much done with the topic at this point, and now it's just free form, and we're going to talk about everything under the sun and meander and ramble. So if you're here expecting us to stick to a topic, you fool! You've been fooled. Update, we're at $55 on the super chats, which means we are $45 away from two $25 drive-through RPG gift cards. So if anybody wants to jump in and fill that up, please do, and we'll be happy to give those out. Okay.
And we're only 4K away from one of our stretch goals at 50K on the backer kits. So if anybody wants to check that out, you can. And that's the link going across the bottom of the screen right now.
Yeah, man, go and back them, guys. Don't waste this opportunity to be part of something that could be one of those things that when it's, when you miss out on it, there's always been Kickstarters or whatever that you miss out on and you go, I wish I could have backed that and I didn't, and then it was over. Well, go back them, throw some love at them, give them. You're going to get something good out of it. The art is awesome, by the way, and apparently Bunny's responsible for that. So well done, kudos to Bunny. By the way, Bunny, every time I say your name and I see my name, I go Bunny and Bear. It's like a kid's book about friendship.
Oh my God, I should draw one. I should draw it. If
you're going to put me in it, make sure I'm good and surly, and I have to learn the lessons of being tolerant with others.
Okay, Bunny will teach you.
Okay, beautiful. I just realized I never told you guys my heartbreaker for the games, and I should, because it matters to me.
Oh, yeah.
There was a game that kickstarted a few years back called Legends and Lore. Sorry, Legend Lore. And it was presented as being, it's a 5e hack, but it was presented as being based on this 80s fantasy comic called The Realm, and then had a second series called Legend Lore, which I love. I have collected them all. I'm in love with it. It's a little goofy, a lot gritty, and really kind of walks the line between goofy and dark. So I backed it. And then it came out. And I don't think they even read the fucking comics. Because this game was all about inclusivity and diversity, and you do whatever you want, and everybody's got special, and and I'm just and then when I finally saw art from the comic, I was like, there's like 3 pieces of actual comic art in here, as opposed to all this other garbage you put in, which is just Tumblr art at this point in time. And that was a big heartbreaker for me, because I love that comic. I read it the entire run at least once a year because I just love it so much. It had a great influence on me as a designer for setting, and to have it be just turned into someone's virtue signal, we're designing something inclusive, was just like, Jesus, could you just called it something else and not stolen this? Because now that is done. It's the same way I feel about the D20 Farscape game. I love Farscape. The game that came out was D20. Oh, well, guess we'll never see another Farscape game, like that's the end of that road for us. So it kind of sucks, So there we go. So that's mine. Okay. Anybody have anything that they feel they want to discuss? We'll open it up. We'll also up to you guys in the chat. If you have something you want to add in, we'll take a look at it and go. Super chats will get it much more attention, just so you know. All right, Len, what do you got?
So I think, first of all, if only there was some very simple sci-fi role-playing game you could use to play a Farscape campaign, I will think about it and see if I might be able to come up with one. But while I'm thinking about that, I would love to hear more from Zane and Bunny about going with the backer kit folks, and what the backer kit folks have, like how they've assisted you in the process. Because obviously the Kickstarter folks, and full disclosure, I ran the Prowlers and Paragons Kickstarter, and everything was fine, and they were fine. But having said that, it was kind of like, so I would love to hear about your experience with the backer kit folks.
Sure.
Do you want to?
Yeah.
I was like, we're like, oh, do you want to do it?
Well, okay. So the first thing is, we were going to use backer kit even if we were going to be on Kickstarter. So that's the thing, that the back end aspect of backer kit, keeping track of everything for you and then sending it to the fulfillment center or whatever, that's huge and immeasurable. And the fact that you can continue to take pledges after the Kickstarter is over, because they're so integrated with Kickstarter, yada yada. So we were already going to do that. Mm-hmm. Then when we were, the whole crowdfunding campaign is all set up on Kickstarter. All I have to do is pretty much press the button and it would have been live there. But when we went to Gen Con and we talked to the backer kit people, I kind of just realized, why are we even using Kickstarter when we've got to do this anyway? And now it's kind of more complicated to actually have to do the Kickstarter and the backer kit. Let's just have them do it. So then the other thing is we're featured essentially on BackerKit because certainly at this point, there's not a lot of other products on there. And they had the $5 million successful, what was the board game? Gloomhaven. That was their first launch. And they've got the huge audience that they hit up as soon as we went live. And they also were very integrated with Shadow Dark. So they had, tons of experience with that, and they knew that audience. And so there was a lot that we got out of going with them. Did I cover everything, or did you have something else you wanted to say?
Well, I mean, the simplest way to put it is that, there was 3 men in this. There was the front man, which would have been Kickstarter. There's the middle man, which would have been BackerKit. And there's the butt end of it all, which would have been us. So right now it's, you cut out the front guy. You only have the middle and the back end. And plus you get discounts with the, with BackerKit if you go right with them. So, I mean, it was kind of like a no-brainer. Yeah. And I kind of really like how they have things set up. It's actually a little bit more streamlined and nicer looking and more organized than Kickstarter is. And I think that is what really sold me. And the people, it's really the people. They are great people there. They are very attentive and they communicate so well. They're like right there, right at your door if you need them. Well, not literally, obviously, but
yeah.
But they are
right
there.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, how many times did I talk to my main contact today?
Kerwin, yes, he's an amazing
40, 50 times, just asking lots of questions and getting more information and learning a lot. I mean,
Yes.
I've run 2 Kickstarters before. They were both very small for a comic book. They barely made it across the finish line, both of them. They were pretty much just the people that I knew essentially pledged. So this has been brand new to me. I never expected to get, almost $50,000 in less than 48 hours. It's been a mind-blowing experience for sure, and they've been a huge part of that.
Yeah. Amazing. Well, look, again, congratulations. At some point, I wasn't going to talk about the comp online, but at some point I may chase you guys down and hit you up later for even more in-depth information. But thanks for the 1,000-mile perspective, and again, huge congratulations.
I kind of want to give a shout out to Full Metal Dragon who backed the Elder Drake Hide book with the awesome gold inlay art. I am so excited to get that. You have no idea.
Just so you know, Bunny, I think you're typing in my channel. He was on Bear's channel, so he's
I don't know
not
where
seeing
I'm
your
at.
responses. I see you responding on my channel, but to things that no, it's okay. But it's just the
I like your channel.
Oh wow! I'll just leave.
I've never known where to type a response. That's why I never respond. I know. That's why when someone says, "Hey, Len," I'll usually wave at the screen because I don't know where to type a response.
Right.
Well, she said awesome to you, Full Metal Dragon. So, her response to your elder thing was awesome.
Yeah. I'm proud of
you guys have convinced me. I think I'm going to look at BackerKit for my 2 that are coming up because it's just at this point. I'm like you, Zane. I did 2 comics and, got across the finish line. Life's great, but I wasn't thrilled with the Kickstarter experience, to be quite honest. And then I was going to look at Indiegogo and we were going to continue, and someone actually said to me, "Oh, you can't use Indiegogo." Oh, why not? "Oh, Gamergate uses Indiegogo. That's where Gamergate goes." And I'm just like, or Comicsgate, and I'm like, and
so
I'm raising money. This isn't a political fund. Hello, Beans. If you come to say hi to everybody. Oh my goodness, Beans is here. The mascot of the channel. Beans has decided.
What's a bean?
Sorry?
What is a beans?
Well, you can see him right here. He's a Beans. He blends with
no, he's practically invisible.
I had something over the cat. How dare I? I have cat breaks in my videos. Oh my god.
You good, buddy? Okay, he's good. So no, but I think what you're saying about BackerKit makes them sound very cool and very good, and it removes a lot of the I find Kickstarter to be nonsense these days, to be quite honest. They've politicized their process, and for me, okay, you're going down? Okay, bye. For me, that's not what I'm here for. I'm not here to play politics. I'm here because I'm trying to raise money for a product, and I don't care who you vote for. I don't care what your thoughts are on these things. I just need to raise money, and that's just the long and the short of it at that point in time.
Sure.
So sadly, and as one of my publishing partners said, he said, yeah, he goes, those Comicsgate guys, because he was getting accused. People were trying to say, you're Comicsgate. And he's like, I'm not, but maybe I should, because they fund it like $300,000 for everything they do, so it's crazy. Nothing makes money more than telling people that you're bad. Then everybody wants to see the bad all of a sudden. Okay. Sean, anything you want to talk about? Any topic you'd like to hear the panel discuss?
Oh, I don't know. Get back to me. I'll ask somebody else and I'll think about it.
Get back to me again.
Always surprising me with these ambush questions.
I know. I'm such a jerk like that. Cody? I got nothing.
I kind of have something.
Oh, Bunny's got something.
I mean, I want to know what you guys are like excited for. Like, are there any systems or books or anything that are coming out? Because for me, Daggerheart is kind of something I'm really interested. I like the Hope and Fear dice. I like the 2d12 system, and I think it's very unique and very like, it's kind of like bold. It's bold. Like I think someone was saying that earlier. It's very bold in the chat. Very bold system.
Okay, so who's got something they're looking forward to?
Nobody.
I mean,
my book.
I'm looking forward to the Shadowdark expansion, the Unnatural Selection.
The Black Star Companion should be available in print soon.
Jesus, it wouldn't be a 4-color cafe if Len wasn't shilling something, ladies and
seriously,
gentlemen.
dude, I got kids. There's college. I got to pay for it. For the love of God, help me out. College isn't.
I got cats, man. Come on.
I'm mildly curious about Dolmenwood, but. I'm not excited for it, but I'm curious about it.
Yeah. Cody?
I don't keep up with the new hotness. I'm sorry. I just don't. Dolmenwood does look kind of cool. I watched some guys play it. I really like the look of it because I like the labyrinth and, all that kind of stuff that it really seemed in that kind of vibe. But I really don't keep up with what's good. I mean, like the newest things I know about are Len's games. So
I wonder.
And I like Len's games. Go check out his stuff. It's cool.
No, Len does great games. Hey, listen, Len, we've never said a bad word about your games. Just you. We just make fun of you.
That is entirely fair.
Your games are awesome. Fair. I mean, come on. There and Hack Again is the best Lord of the Rings D&D you'll ever play. I'm sorry.
It's awesome.
Hey, Cody, I think that you'd be able to do a good Alan Alda impression. I just heard a little bit of Alan Alda in your voice.
Oh yeah, I can do it.
Yeah, can you switch between the dramatic maudlin and the comedy, though? Can you do that back and forth like you used to do on MASH?
I don't know about that, but I probably don't have the wit for that. But I can do the.
Just steal the future.
You're doing it right now. Did you just try, or is that just your normal voice?
No, it's my normal voice. Maybe I was subconsciously. Actually, that's a voice I normally switch to when I'm role playing. I'll switch to that voice a lot. And I didn't really even know I was doing the Alda voice until somebody told me that. I think it was Elfbait, actually. It was like, oh, you sound like Alan Alda. I was like, oh, yeah, I kind of do. Probably because I grew up watching MASH all the time as a kid. So that's probably where it came from.
Let me take you on a tale that goes through time. There was a time when I would hear things like, Bear, your voice, it's butter. And Bear, my God, that voice of yours. And then I met a guy named Cody. And I brought Cody onto my streams, and now all I hear is, Cody, your voice, Cody. And I just feel so ineffectual as a man now. Cody, you emasculated me, sir. Emasculated me.
You have equally impressive radio voices.
And then you do that every time, Sean. Like, that just makes it like, I love both of you. You're both my favorites. Like, you're the worst mom ever. No. Cody's voice is awesome. And by the way, Cody was born to play halflings. Like, dear God, man. Like, what is this? Is it like genetic? Like, why are you so good at halflings?
I don't know. Show us your feet. We got to see for sure.
Actually,
you have the hairy feet.
No, one of the reasons I got into fantasy is because I read The Hobbit, and it's still one of my favorite books of all time. And the thing I loved about The Hobbit was Bilbo Baggins. He was my favorite character because he was just a normal dude. He was basically just an English citizen, right? He was just this normal dude that was forced into this adventure, and ever since then I've loved halflings. Now I play other characters, of course, but I've always loved halflings. And and I also don't like how people play halflings, so I feel the need to just like play a halfling right, because everybody plays halflings like murder hobos and thieves and assassins and stuff, but that's not really what a halfling is, right?
Right.
They're good natured creatures.
A halfling is a regular guy. A halfling is actually a human being, not a heroic human being, but a halfling is a human. A halfling is the person. A halfling is the person that Tolkien put in so that we could relate to someone, because we weren't going to be relating to the great heroes that we were reading about. We have more in common with a dragon than with Aragorn or any of the other great heroes. But the hobbits,
hang on, Len.
They're kind of like us.
If you are from an Anglo culture who has had the experience of that, yes, hobbits are very much like us because they are very bucolic, rural Englishmen. And where I grew up, in the part of Canada I grew up in, Jesus Christ, it's all Irish, Scots, and English where I'm from, and that's that type. So when I'm reading Lord of the Rings, I'm like, that's my grandmother. Yep, okay, no problem. But if you're from like the plains of Texas, you might have a little bit of a harder time relating to an English gentleman from the countryside who's obsessed with tea, cheese, and his pipe.
Even and that's the thing. Agreed. But that's still probably closer to you than Gandalf, the Archangel Wizard, and Legolas, that however old he was, 1,000-year-old something, who calls the rest of the party the children he's wandering around with, or whatever. So I'm there with Cody. The halflings are they're actually closer to people than the humans we encounter, at least tokens, right?
Halflings are fantastic, and thank you all once for that. Really appreciate that. That's really, we're getting closer, guys. We're getting closer. We might be giving away some drive-through gift certificates tonight. But halflings are the bread and butter. You know what I mean? They're the bread, the butter, and to a certain extent the jam. And that's what makes them so nice, is that they're really innocuous, unoffensive, and even like I'm reading the Mythgar series, the Iron Tower trilogy there, which was supposed to be a Lord of the Rings sequel, and then it got turned into his own thing. And even his stand-in halflings have that quaint, cheesy kind of country bumpkinish feel to them, and that courage of a lion in their heart when pushed to the test, and I'll have at you, Longshanks, and all that fun stuff. But at the end of the day, they are very British. They are very, very English, and as a particular class of British as well.
Very much so.
Right? So I kind of like when people play halflings that are a little more Peaky Blinders or a little more Cockney. I kind of like that a little bit. It's kind of fun to see that, the halfling with the 18 strength who rolls into the room and he's like, all right, then, who am I starting out tonight? It's like, this guy's refreshing, like.
You hand over that treasure, I'll bite your ankles.
Right, there it goes. One shot to the nuts and then one to the nose on the way down. The point being is that I think halfling culture can be diverse culture as well. It doesn't have to be a monoculture. Oh, sure. And I would say that is my biggest complaint with Tolkien, and it's one of my biggest complaints with most fantasy role-playing settings, is that the non-humans are monocultures, and everybody around them is like, oh, these are the Germans, and these are the British, and these are the French, and these are the Spanish, and these are the Arabs, whereas all the non-human races are regulated to all dwarves are crazy Scots, all elves are ethereal, highfalutin British people, or whatever the case may be. And I want to see more of the non-human cultures. I want to see it not to be Len and pump my own product, but that's what the West is about. There are 6 or 7 different types of elf with very distinct cultures, 4 or 5 different types of halfling that you're going to deal with. The orcs are different, the goblins, everything's different and has its own thing. So that way, as a player, when you want to make the choice to play something, you're not limited to, well, if I want that diversity, it's going to be a human. I want to be an elf, but I want to be a violent elf. I want to be an elf who's not high-minded and not ethereal. Well, we can do that for you. Or if I want to play the halfling who's, really studious and obsessed with magic, and his entire thing is about knowledge and education. We've got that for you. So I think that's the kind of stuff I'd like to see more of in role-playing games, and a lot less of the two-dimensional characters. So much so that in my games, the dwarves don't have Scottish accents. They have German accents. And it's much more fun because the mountain dwarves have a German accent and the hill dwarves have a Yiddish accent. And it just is absolutely fabulous fun to watch that difference versus the never-ending Scottish dwarf,
I oscillate between Scottish and Slavic for dwarves.
Slavic would be good, yeah. No. All right, Cody. Anything you're looking forward to that's coming out?
No.
Good.
Oh, well, that I don't know if you guys. It sounds like you don't really pay attention to this as much, but and I hadn't been either. But looking at Kickstarter and all of these board games and role-playing games and all the stuff that's coming out and how they're able to support and get over millions of dollars for their different products, it seems like there's a lot of that going on. So, as a watcher of trends, because of course, like I said, I was in the video game industry, yeah. I got to watch that industry really transform and change over those 22 years and see, what was popular when I first started and what's popular when I got out of it. It's so different. So I'm wondering, what, if anybody has a feeling for what attributes to this sudden flux of, hugely popular board games and hugely popular TTRPGs as opposed to video games, because of course that was the big thing, right? And it still kind of is, but now it's like conglomerate giants that conquer that space and not so much the individual, whereas now the individual is really able to do some incredible things.
I'll fight you, Bunny. I'll fight you.
That guy.
Go ahead. No, you're pointing to me.
Oh no, I was pointing at you like you want to say something.
So were you around, Zane, during the D20 boom?
The D20 boom.
Were you paying attention to role-playing games in the early 2000s?
No.
Okay, so this is the same thing that happened then, which was 3rd edition D&D came along, and a lot of Gen Xers who had lapsed from that hobby post-college, they'd played it in high school, they'd played it in college, and then the 90s happened, and they were lullapaloozaling their lives away and not playing role-playing games, suddenly found out about a new edition of D&D. They came back in numbers, drove it up. At that point, 3rd edition was the highest selling edition ever in the history of RPGs, and it took off and it created an entire boom. Well, the millennials are hitting that phase now. The millennials are coming in and they're going, hey, I used to play D&D when I was in high school or in college, and what's this Critical Role thing, and what's going on in Stranger Things, and what's this, and what's that, and what's this, and what's that. And this new edition of D&D came out, 5th edition. And they went, ooh, and it's the cycle repeating itself all over again. But this time, there's a slight difference. During the D20 boom, the self-publishing wasn't quite there yet.
Right.
It was starting, but it hadn't hit its stride perfectly. I remember trying to make PDFs back in the day, and it was a fucking nightmare. And I studied desktop publishing, and I was just like, Jesus, I want to pull my fucking eyes out every time I try and make a PDF. Yeah. Now, click, click, bam, I've got a PDF up on Drive-Thru-RPG without 2 seconds thought, right? So that the Dungeon Masters Guild helped a lot. In fact, the entire Drive-Thru-RPG sort of one bookshelf family, I think, helped a lot. And it doesn't hurt that we have a much, 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 much larger media outlet community these days through YouTube, through Twitch, that have allowed word to spread and communities to build. And as a result, things have taken off. My only sadness is that the lion's share of it is 5th edition. And that's the only sadness I feel, because I think there's a great core game in 5th edition, but I don't like the final execution of it. So just seeing yet another fucking Sword Coast supplement, I don't give a shit. Because now, I don't know if you guys have ever seen this. It was a great thing. I saw it. I can't remember where I saw it. Might have been on Facebook, but it was basically the map of Faerun, and it had the Sword Coast outlined, and then they just wrote Forgotten Realms across the rest of the map, i.e. meaning no one knows what the fuck's over there anymore because they just focus on the Sword Coast. Yeah, I think that was the thing. Anybody else got a feeling about why there's a boom and a renaissance happening?
Media, I think.
Yeah.
I mean, honestly, what it boils down to is I think a bunch of gamers went into video games, television production, movie writing, and some of them hit big. Peter Jackson, yes, because everything always goes back to Tolkien, as it should. But Peter Jackson's Lord of the Rings movies came along and suddenly made fantasy wildly more accessible and opened the door to like Game of Thrones on HBO, etc. So you just got this media exposure to a much, much larger group. Yeah. And therefore, the group that are available to buy these games and be interested in these products is much larger. I mean, video claims eclipsed what Hollywood was 20 years ago in terms of revenue, annual revenue, something in the 20-ish years ago. Yeah. So that was the first, hurdle. And probably COVID maybe accelerated things a little bit.
To an extent, yeah.
Things being D&D and role-playing was in media before, right? It was in the IT crowd, and it was in a couple of...
and it was in Freaks and Geeks and stuff like that.
But when it hit Big Bang Theory and Big Bang Theory was first, and then Stranger Things, at that point, it kind of became a phenomenon. So...
Well, but here's the thing. Now, when I used to work on set back in, say, the 80s and early 90s, mid 90s, even up to the 2000s, very rare I'd meet someone else who played D&D or knew anything about it, right, in the industry. Very, very fucking rare. I'd meet the occasional person. Surprisingly, sometimes it was a stunt guy, but it was like very rare. Then, now, I've heard directors give direction using role-playing D&D terms. Like, okay, this guy, he's not an NPC. Even though he's not an NPC. And I just sit there going,
yeah.
Well, NPC is common. That's common parlance now.
More than just NPC. I'm just using that as a touchstone. But I mean, I've heard other things, and it's really interesting to see. In the 80s, when it first was starting to hit, and we saw it in E.T., that was a big deal that the kids were playing Dungeons and Dragons in E.T., right? Big deal.
Wait, they were?
And yeah, the brothers were playing D&D, and Elliot really wanted to play, and he made his own character based on E.T., and he showed up going, this is my thing, he's a this and a that, and they really wanted to play. So that was the first step, right? We saw. Okay. Then, like you said, we see Big Bang Theory, we see Freaks and Geeks come along, we see IT Crowd, where they have that fantastic D&D episode, which is probably one of the other... Jen the Fredo is probably one of the best episodes of that series, period. And it starts to take a little bit of a route. It's starting to go somewhere, but D&D is still nerdy. Role players are still super nerds, what have you. Big Bang Theory, as much as I fucking hate it, I cannot deny the impact it had on escalating geek culture to the forefront. Absolutely, 100%. And I will, till my dying day, and this is a hill I will fucking die on, Stranger Things did more for the popularity of D&D than Critical Role ever did. And I am so tired of it. Well, because of Critical Role and Stranger Things, let's flip those two fucking words. Because of Stranger Things and things like Critical Role. Because Stranger Things had such a massive cultural impact across the entirety of Western culture compared to Critical Role, which, nerdy people watch for the most part. But my mother did.
So he's not excited for Daggerheart.
Yeah. No, not at all. I don't know. I'm not one bit excited. Sorry.
I want you to scroll up in the chats to Dale Russell's comment that says,
"Oh, Jesus, not Dale." Okay, what did he say? What Dale do now?
Us old guys have disposable income to spend on role-playing games.
I don't have disposable income to spend on role-playing games. What the fuck are you talking about, Dale? I just sold half my collection.
Dale, buy my book.
I think he already did.
That is a person who understands how to be on Bear's show. Thank you very much.
Yeah, well done. No, it's true. We did have more disposable income before the economy took a fucking nosedive after COVID, and we were able to support things. I can't remember the amount of fucking Kickstarters I would back in a year and just be like,
yeah, I'm a little crazy.
And now I'm like, this better really speak to me, or I'm not putting money anywhere near it. And I can't imagine it's any better for the millennials, and I can't imagine it's any better for the Zoomers right now, because they're inheriting this shit show.
Well, I mean, I'm looking at $46,000 and saying somebody's got some disposable income somewhere.
But here's the thing: like, she did $1.8 million on Shadow Dark.
Yeah, $1.2 million. I think
it was 1.3, and she probably made well over that when it came to getting back to the backer, because we upgraded our tier after it was all over.
Right.
Okay.
Imagine more people did.
Right after the crowdfunding was done, and like I was saying, like Backer Kit allows you to upgrade and change and all that. So she got way more than that, I'm sure.
Yeah. And that's something, and there's no denying that's something. But think back 5 years, 6, 7 years. Between DM's Gold and Kickstarter, if you took the entire pool of money that was being thrown around in those indie projects, it was probably the equivalent of $5 or $6 million a year being thrown into these things. So there's definitely been a slowdown. And what I'm seeing with Kickstarters and stuff like yours, certain people are hitting the nerve perfectly. And as a result, they're generating all the hype. What's his name? The comic guy everyone likes to talk about. Jesus, where's Brian? If Brian was here, he'd know, because Brian talked about the comics last time. He hit a really big nerve, and he managed to generate millions of dollars on his crowdfunding.
Are you talking about Eric July?
Thank you, Eric July. Thank you. For everybody else, though, I've seen plenty of Kickstarters fail this year. I've seen plenty of projects not come up. I've seen plenty of guys not get their gold and platinum status on DM's Guild.
But I'll tell you how to make your Kickstarter fail, and that is don't generate an audience before you launch it. Like that's probably the majority of the reason that they fail. And I'd love to see some people, and maybe there's even people that are watching this right now that have said, I generated 1,000 followers and I had 1,000 people signed up ready to buy it, and it failed. Like I don't see that happening. Maybe it does, and I'm just unaware of it.
It could be. It could look. The problem is that it's hard to get the numbers out of people. It's like everybody's sort of like Netflix about their backer histories. They're like, yeah, we had people. Well, we made money, and I don't blame them, because when I did my 2 Kickstarters, it was the same thing. It's like, yeah, we made our money, but Jesus Christ, I don't want to talk about the people that backed it. You know what I mean? One of the things that really annoyed me was a lot of the stuff I was seeing is that they were putting, based on your pledge tier, in the acknowledgement page. So like, oh, the knights. So now I know who backed at what level. And I'm like, that's a little nobody's business. You know what I mean? So I just put everybody's names and left it at that, because I thought that was a little more privacy. And, you know, I don't need to advertise what someone backed me for. That's between me and them. But despite all that, you're right. Networking is the other thing, though. Having your community will help, but networking, oh my God. And you two networked your asses off on this one by getting literally the creator of Shadow Dark to sing your praises about a product or her game, and then having Professor Dungeon Master shilling it a little bit as well. I got to admit, like, you guys really, like, I don't know where you learned marketing, but
it's a mighty fine hustle.
I pulled it out of my ass. You're welcome.
Congratulations. You pulled some mighty fine marketing out of your ass then, because you really did it right. And I think ultimately, cynics aside, people should look at what you two have done as a bit of not a guide or a blueprint, but a suggestion on things you might want to consider before trying to launch your product. You know, it's as simple as that. I mean, Christ almighty, if you can't network, you're done. You are done. You know, Neil Gaiman said it best. There are 3 skills that you can potentially have: be fast, be talented, or be easy to work with. And if you have any 2 of those, you will be a success. But if you only have 1, you'll be a failure. And that's just the way it is. And I can't tell you the amount of people I know who have talent. Not easy to work with and not fast. And as a result, their dreams are just staying as dreams.
Absolutely.
You too. Jeff Jones, thank you so much for backing Bunny's book. Yay. Now I feel bad that I haven't backed your stupid... Jesus Christ.
It's because you suck.
No, because I don't play Shadow Dark. And I do suck. It's true. I suck out loud in Technicolor.
You can suck less if you back us.
So this is...
See, there's that marketing acumen.
That's how I get people.
This is the shame-based part of the backing. I'm a Protestant lady. You can't shame me. I shame myself at 3 a.m, lying in bed, thinking about everything I did wrong since kindergarten. That's the Protestant way. But yeah, no, like, seriously, guys, like, if you are planning right now, anybody who is planning to do fundraising, look at what they've done here. Go look at the channel. Go look at the Facebook group. Go look at everything, all the promotion and marketing and networking that has gone into make this a success. What's her name that does Shadow Dark? I keep forgetting.
Kelsey Dion.
Yeah, I keep calling her Dale Kingsley. That's how bad I am at who's someone in this industry.
No.
So Kelsey,
it's a human name, so you've got that.
It is close, yes. And there is a K in it, and there is a D in it as well. Yeah. So I think I'm close. I'm really close. But anyway, I used to back her for Arcane Library. The Arcane Library. Yeah, I used to be one of the supporters for that on the monthly and all that good stuff, and get all the. And then I stopped playing 5e, so there was no point. But she's not an overnight success. She built this brick by brick by brick and built something impressive out of it. And that's, let the naysayers say what they want. And I mean, I'll admit, Shadow Dark's not for me. I read it and I'm like, not for me. But it's for people, clearly, and people are loving it. And then your success on the heels of that is showing that there's something there. Do you guys think Shadow Dark is the current it game, or is it going to be the next Castles and Crusades? A community is going to build up around it that's going to keep it going in perpetuity. What do you think?
Yeah. That's a good question. It's hard to say for me.
Yeah, I'm trying to figure that out.
Yeah, you think about it. It's hard for me to say at this point, but it does feel like when people are introduced to it, they go, oh yeah, this is something I've been waiting for. I've been looking for. So
Sure.
That momentum does seem to continuing to build. And the other thing that's really cool about it is that, man, that community is great.
Are they?
Yeah, they're really.
Oh, they're beautiful.
Like think about the DCC community, or think about some of the other communities. This is a community of people who really are like they care about each other. They and they're rooting for Shadow Dark to succeed, and they're rooting for us to succeed, and so there's something really heartwarming about that audience, and so that gives me a lot of confidence about it moving forward, and certainly it feels good to be a part of it just because of that.
Okay. All right.
Is that what you were going to say?
Yeah, you pretty much said some great things there. I was thinking about the community too, and how the community is just a bunch of wonderful individuals. They show up for you. They show up to support you. They show up to just anything, like comments, like you. They just support each other. They just love everything that each other is creating, and it's I've never been a part of that before. Like, it's really cool.
Yeah, you can give us compliments for all of our marketing and everything, and we'll always take them and appreciate it. But at the same time, that audience was created before we came along, and we really got to take advantage of it from the perspective of we're similar. We have a similar mindset. And we're in it for fun and not for any other negative reasons. We're in it just to have a great time.
Yeah.
And so we fit into that audience really well. And so it was an easy process.
Okay. Well, that works. That works a lot.
Yeah, but I still don't know, like, how long term is it going to be?
Time is going to have to tell on this one, right?
Well,
it has to get released. And once it's out, then time will tell. Like, it's
so. Do you guys know the history of the Troll Lords and the sort of what happened with them and Castles and Crusades and how it became what it is today?
I honestly
no,
I do not. I'm sorry.
Yeah. So there was a web forum called Dragon's Foot. Still exists. It's an old school thing, and basically, Jesus, cat. Okay, and they were basically my cats are being crazy.
I love cats so much.
Someone's box just fell down. By the way, I hope nothing's damaged. I packed it real well, as you saw last night. They were in a bit of a snippet.
Beans.
Osric. And it was probably Misty. No, it's Beans. They were in a bit of the guys who did Osric, and they wound up having a schism break where basically Osric guys went one way and the Castles and Crusades guys went a different way.
Oh, I know this.
Over the years, Castles and Crusades built up a really loyal following. There was a point, I remember when I was playing Castles and Crusades, where they were on the verge, like there was going to be a make or break moment for them. And then the Fourth Crusade, as they called it, which was the fourth printing of all their books, came out, and it hit the ground. And then their community just really rallied around them, supported them. And now they have a solid community that every time they kickstart something, they know what they can expect as their support levels. They know what their budget should be. They know what they're going to raise as money, and it continues going. And I have friends who play Castles and Crusades who are they'll play anything else, but they are Castles and Crusades loyalists. Everything that comes out, they back. Everything they can buy, they buy. I think Shadow Dark could go that way if the will is there within the community. And that's the secret of it every time. It's always going to be the community. Shit. Hang on a second. I got to tell Dale to go fuck himself. Hang on. Yeah, Dale is a little Texas wonder for you. Dale, by the way, is an old friend. He plays in our games. He's part of the Zeg Media family, and he loves to just sit here and snipe and make snarky comments and chat all night long. So,
well, you're talking about tunnels and trolls.
You know, I like tunnels and trolls.
There is a danger that Shadow Dark is the it game for the moment, right?
Yeah.
And we saw that happen with Old School Essentials. It was the it game. What else was, guys, refresh my brain. What else were the recent it games in the last few years in the clone community? I mean, Labyrinth Lord was the first one for sure. Labyrinth Lord.
Swords and Wizardry had its moments.
Swords and Wizardry for sure.
OSC.
Yeah,
You mentioned OSC.
I'm realizing
Well, you only have so many days in a week, and we do these like every Wednesday night is a game, which, by the way, we skipped out on to attend this.
I know, and I'm so sorry for your game. Thank you.
Well, I think they're streaming it at the
at the store that we're supposed to be at now playing. They're streaming this, so you got a little extra publicity for it.
Woo! Yay! Well, proud to be the 740th backer on BackerKit crowdfunding for Unnatural Selection. Tabletop Crusaders, you are the man.
Yay! Thank you.
Quick update, by the way, guys. We're at $55 for the potential gift cards tonight. So if anybody else wants to super chat us, we can smell it. We're almost there. But that's okay. If you don't, we'll roll it over to the next one. I'm good with that. I'll just keep it rolling until we get to where we need to go, guys. Don't worry. Okay, so let's step away from D&D for the last little bit here. We got 10-15 minutes left, and then we're done for the night. So let's step away from D&D.
Sure.
Zane, what's your favorite non-D&D game? RPG. And while you're doing that, I'm going to go see what the hell the cat's picking at.
Cyberpunk. I mean,
that's
I know. Okay, so it's my favorite genre, right? Like, it is this fantastic snapshot of time, like this 80s neon time period that has all the the modern things that we're sort of used to, but it's also trapped in time so that you don't have too much modern stuff going on. And what I really like about it is the scenarios that you can find yourself in are very, very difficult to get into in a classic fantasy campaign. So for instance, you go to a location and you get way in over your head, and then you go a hot wire a car and get the hell out of there. Like you don't get to do that in a fantasy game unless you can hot wire the dragon and fly out of there. Like
hot wire the dragon. Yes.
Reason number 775 why I hate Shadowrun. Here we go, guys. Going to trigger all your cats. There we go. I've triggered everybody's cats in the audience. Yay! Yeah, no, I'm a huge Cyberpunk fan. Massive. Yes. There are two games I ran almost exclusively from about 1988 to 2000 was Marvel Superheroes and Cyberpunk. So I feel you on that. It's something special. Okay. Cody, favorite game, not D&D.
It's always hard for me to pick out a favorite. I have a lot of favorites. So I'm going to only pick two. So Star Wars D6. Okay. Yeah. And my other one, which may surprise people and may not surprise people, Vampire the Masquerade.
Doesn't surprise me.
Yeah.
But which the original Vampire the Masquerade?
The original Vampire the Masquerade.
My man. There you are. The original World of Darkness. I love that. Why?
It was total. I mean, when I was introduced to Vampire the Masquerade, it was like a totally different type of game. I mean, it like.
Sorry. Yeah, sorry, I got distracted by the cat. You'll have to start over, Cody.
Yeah, it was a totally different type of game. I never played anything like that. I was playing the monster, which I already loved vampires. I got Dracula here. And then, I grew up watching vampire movies and monster movies and all that stuff. And I get to play the vampire. And then it's the whole meta plot behind it was really cool. The backstory and and it was just really fun. Yeah, it was a great game. Fair. And it still is. I still love playing it.
There we go. Sean, I'm dying to hear this. Sean, what's your favorite non-D&D game?
Well, as you know, I mostly just play D&D, but the ones I've played lately, I think Call of Cthulhu is the one I enjoy the most. I would play more often. If somebody did a campaign, I'd join in. I love supernatural horror. As a kid, I was into Beyond the Supernatural, the Palladium knockoff of Call of Cthulhu. But I was also a stupid kid and didn't know how to run such a game correctly. So yeah, I played a couple games recently. I enjoyed it. And the one we talked about on Legion of Myth stream a few weeks back, Lex Arcana was also another good one. But if picking one, I'd say Call of Cthulhu for a non-D&D game, because also it's very different from D&D. It's a nice sort of step out of the usual comfort zone.
Man, and I agree with you. Tabletop Crusaders, dude, that comment made my night. Thank you so much, sir. I appreciate that, because that's all we're trying to do here is just build a community of people having fun talking about this nerdy shit we like to do. So thank you so much. No, but Sean, Call of Cthulhu is literally and absolutely one of those games that is, you either love it or hate it. You know what I mean? People either love playing Call of Cthulhu or they can't stand it. And I think far more people love it than hate it. And it's huge in Japan. Like it's
I've heard this rumor.
It is.
Oh yeah, Call of Cthulhu, and like it's kind of creepy when you go. Tentacle monsters are popular in Japan. You say,
No, they love them.
Okay, right.
Really? But no,
It
but Call of
makes
Cthulhu is the most popular non-Japanese RPG. Like it is the number one that isn't made in Japan by a Japanese publisher. So that's kind of cool. Len, oh dear God, Len, you have no idea what little warm cockle in my heart is dying to hear this because it's you and it'll be something I won't expect. Jeez. What is your favorite game that isn't D&D?
I don't know how many times you have to ask me about my favorite RPGs until you finally process that I have no
love
standards.
Every game ever and their greatest things.
I have no standards for RPGs. I love them all. So
you in the sense that I have no standards? Just
almost all of them. Instead, what I will do is throw out a couple of interesting things based on what other people have said. So if you like Cyberpunk, check out a game. And by the way, none of these games are mine or games I've written or games I have any connection to. So if you like Cyberpunk, there's a game called Zaibatsu, which is by Zoser Games. It basically uses the Traveler or Cephas engine, and it uses that very simple and very deadly and very skill-focused engine to give you a very cyberpunk feeling game where your character's life is very disposable. It's an excellent game. It's very focused on Tokyo. Like you are cyberpunk's in Tokyo, and you may, if it doesn't work for you, you may have to sort of make some adjustments. But it's an excellent game. As for Vampire, yes, of course. The one thing I think that is hard for people coming into Vampire nowadays or Werewolf or any of the World of Darkness games, World of Darkness was wonderful in that it hit that beautiful 1990s coming to 2000 zeitgeist where we didn't quite know what was going to happen. Blade came out around that time, and The Matrix came out around that time, and it seemed like that was the game that was perfectly designed to take advantage of that black leather, dark neon zeitgeist of uncertainty.
It was cyberpunk without the cyber. I mean, really, at the end of the day, it
kind of, yeah. It's cyberpunk with monsters instead. Because I assure you, in cyberpunk, you are also the monsters.
Oh, for sure. For sure.
But you need to be to survive. Again, not that different. So, and as for horror, there is a game called Rats in the Walls, which is very small and thin and simple. And if you'd like a horror game that focuses on being helpless, check out a game called Rats in the Walls. I think you can get it for $5. I know some other games you can get for only $5. Check out Rats in the Walls. It's really an excellent game. If you want a sort of a different take on, and it's a different take on sort of Cthulhu horror. It really helps to make you feel powerless and feel like these things you're up against, you are way out of your league. Anyway.
There you go. But also pick up Black Star immediately because the companion's coming out soon, I heard, and it's worth it. All right, Bunny, what's your favorite game other than D&D? More D&D?
Shadow Dark.
But that to me is my D&D, like, because that's what I play.
It's a loophole. It's a loophole.
My supplement. No,
the hustle never ends.
Yeah, I really, honestly, I don't know.
like Star Trek. Like,
oh, well, I do. Okay, but what is the system that the Star Trek?
Modifius 2D20.
Modifius, yes. Yeah, that. Yeah. It is fun. I barely played it though, because anytime my used to be friend would start a campaign, he never really stick with it. So I never really got into the groove of playing that game. And I really, really enjoyed it. And now I don't know who will run it. I don't know anybody around here that will run it.
Everyone who's been here for a while knows exactly my relationship with Star Trek. If I ever decide to stream a Star Trek game, you two will be invited if you would like to join. Okay?
Yes.
Len, you're not welcome.
Huh?
Yeah.
course, Len's welcome. But yeah, no, Star Trek is a fantastic thing. I've played every edition of Star Trek from FASA all the way through to the new one. I'm a huge Trek head. I love Trek. I loved Trek up until 2009. Then I stopped loving Trek real fast. But that's a whole other podcast that we're not going to get into right now. If I had to pick a game that wasn't D&D, that is my favorite game. Let's see. Cody, can you guess what game it is?
Besides Star Trek?
Not Star Trek.
Marvel Superheroes?
Oh my God. Got it in one. Look at that. Marvel Superheroes. I ran that from 87, 88, I think, all the way through to like the 90s and even recently. It's just a game that just hits all the buttons perfectly for me. And as a friend of mine once said, who didn't like the game but played a campaign, he goes, man, you make that game sing. And it's like, well, that's when we were talking about earlier on the other podcast, Sean, game mastery. Game mastery is an art that we are losing. Beans, get out. Thank you.
He just rolled his intimidation check.
Get down.
Yeah. He's got a thing where he likes pulling posters off the wall now. That's his new game that he likes.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
So,
but the thing is, yeah. So,
chalk us up for playing that too, because I've been looking for a hero game for a long time to play RPG, and so I'm open.
There's a slight caveat on that one if I run it. I have my hack of FASERIP that's coming out next year, hopefully, called Mighty Superheroes, where I took the things I didn't like about FASERIP and, in my opinion, fixed them. And some people have played it and really enjoyed it, and other people haven't played it. But if you go down in the show notes, by the way, guys, there's links to the 2 drive-through RPG for Bastard Sword, which is version 2.3 pre-beta now, and the Mighty Superheroes pre-beta. They're pay what you want. You can get them for free. I might as well shill shit, too. They're pay what you want, so pay $0 and download them. Remember, they're pre-beta. They're not finalized games, but you can see what's there, and they are playable as they stand. But yeah, so for me, that would be probably it. My 3 favorite games of all time are Cyberpunk, Star Trek, and FASERIP, if it's not a fantasy game. So there you go. All right. Let's take it home. Anybody got anything other than a Shadow Dark thing they'd like to talk about? I'm kidding. Go buy her book, for the love of God. Please.
Shut me up.
Set her up, because I want them to have a great experience here and want to come back for another one.
Look at that.
So if we can get them up and get them some more money, it's the best way to get people to like you. Money. So the tiny URL is going across the bottom of the screen right now. In the show notes, you're going to find a link to the backer kit. It funded in 10 minutes. It's still climbing. 7 more people have joined the backing in the last, 10 minutes or something like that. It's going crazy. It's blowing up.
There's 1 minute left to do it. Keep the train going.
Do it. Keep the train going. Cody, anything coming up that we need to know about for you? You did that history of gaming video. What's happening next?
Yeah, I'm going to continue doing more history videos, I think. I think I really hit the mark on that. People really enjoy it. I really fucking love it. I love the history of games, always have. And I'm going to be doing some deeper dive videos. Like, I'm going to do some short videos. It's just an overview of the basic history, but I'm really going to do some like deep dive videos on specific games, the creators, and things like that. And the next video I'm going to do is about H.G. Wells and Little Wars. And the other thing I have planned is I'm actually going to play these games with some friends of mine. So I have a game I'm planning on doing. We're going to play some real Prussian Kriegspiel, 1870 style, probably through Tabletop Simulator. I have 1 player right now. I'm going to referee, and I'm going to find 1 more player, and we're going to try it out and demonstrate it for people.
Nice. Go to his channel, guys. GM Cody. You can find it on YouTube. Subscribe and give him the rub. He deserves it. He's got a great channel, and clearly he deserves it because we keep bringing him here because we love having him on. Sean, Mage's Musings. What's going on, son?
Lots is going on. I'm going to be running tables at Cleric Con in November,
which I might be going to, by the way.
Hopefully you can make it. We'll get a picture of you and the puppet.
Now I'm coming.
So as a consequence, I am trying to catch up with all of my game recaps, because I've decided that the tables I run are going to share the continuity with my channel episodes. So anybody who's up to date can participate in that. It might be fun for anybody who follows. So I've got to work hard to get those caught up, because I'm about 8 behind. On top of which, other general theory crafting videos that I want to get out there, other than recaps, that I'm also behind on. In addition, if anybody is in Toronto for Fan Expo this weekend, I will be running a booth at Fan Expo, unrelated to my channel. This is not about me. This is about Jason Anarchy Games, if anybody's familiar. So I'll be manning his booth in the afternoons. He creates a fun little card game called Drinking Quest. So it's drinking D&D. It's very, very amusing, and I have an anecdote I won't get too far into about drinking an entire bottle of whiskey during one game because I wouldn't quit, and I really felt it. But in any case, so videos, and if you're in Fan Expo in Toronto, look up, come say hi at the Jason Anarchy Games drinking booth. Well, it's not a drinking booth, the Drinking Quest booth. There won't be alcohol allowed.
And subscribe to his channel. It's fun. You get to meet the puppets, and the puppets are great, and they do great stuff, and the recaps are awesome. Len, what's coming up for you, man?
Nothing too new and exciting. So actually, I just wanted to say thanks to Zane and Bunny for being on the show. You guys are great, and again, super congratulations on what you've done. And I'm sure Bear's going to say a lot more, but just it was a pleasure meeting you guys. And Bear, as always, thank you so much for having me on.
Len, it's always fun to have you on. It's always fun to barb with you, man. Come on, you know that. You're my brother from another mother, sir. That's just the way it is. All right. And Bunny, is there anything you need to promote right now? Is there anything that maybe people need to know about?
Doesn't he didn't go?
Oh, but you're prettier than him. Let's be honest. Let's just put it down to like who's going to do.
You are one.
Look at that shape of his head.
It is a good shape. No. Listen, as a shaved head man who's many times received compliments on the shape of my skull from ladies, you got a great head, brother.
Yeah, you got a great head.
Okay, so that's going to be on lines I did not expect to hear.
Yeah,
we're going to quote that.
Yeah.
put it in the book. You got a great head, brother.
Yeah.
But no, you guys obviously go back them. What else is going on? Anything else we need to know about?
My YouTube channel, I guess I'm new and up and coming YouTuber.
Yeah, you
that Dungeon Damsel.
Damn fast, by the way, lady.
Thanks.
Real fast. Well done.
Yeah, all of a sudden 1,000 people.
Yeah, it's at the Dungeon Damsel. So you go youtube.com/@the-Dungeon-Damsel. And she's got some really fun videos that are, kind of snappy and quick and plucky, I think is a good way to describe it.
I have a cat break in almost pretty much all of them, and I sing at the end of them
she's
too.
An excellent vocalist.
Cat break, that's the secret.
Yes, it is the secret, the cat break.
I'm not going to lie, I dug the cat break big time. Yeah. I have two of my own, so yeah.
No, dude, I saw one of her videos and reached out right away. I'm like, you need to come be on the Colour Cafe.
Yeah, I'm sorry I wasn't answering you very well because.
Oh, no, it's okay. I didn't take it personally. I didn't cry.
I was so deep in the backer kit. This is the only break I've had today, and I've not really had a break today.
We haven't had any breaks at all for weeks.
I haven't.
Yeah, you're in it. It's a full-time job, man. You know that.
Yeah.
Whenever you crowdfund, that's a full-time job till it's
more
over.
than a full-time job.
Mm-hmm.
It's a full-time job on top of your full-time job.
Yeah.
Right.
And it's a full-time job with overtime on top of it all.
Oh yeah,
it's so much fun. Well, listen, Solange, thanks for showing up, guys. Wish I could share. It's this really good Canadian, but you can't have it.
Looks good.
And I have literally nothing coming up other than the usual live plays. We'll be back for another Colour Cafe next Wednesday. Trying to see if we can get Tex back at some point, and Mr. Welch, who's just been getting killed by work lately, but we will get him back on at some point in time. As usual, we have the live plays every Monday, and every Friday there's a game being done, either Against the Dark Master or this Friday coming up, the first official live play test of Bastard Sword. So watch for that. Other than that, peace, love, geek. Thanks for coming by. And we will see you on the flip side. Going to hit the button that ends the broadcast. So,
good night, everyone.
Bye.